All right, everybody, welcome to the 9 Years Podcast. I am Nick Draper, joined, as always, by the face of the BBC Sport website, Mr. Stuart Deacons. I've been sent down a rabbit hole, Stu. We are recording this on Wednesday evening, and a conversation about cinnamon cereal that had shrimp tail in it somewhere in America was raised, and my brother Christopher mentioned that apparently the guy who found some shrimp tail in his box of cereal is somehow in some way related to the American sitcom Blossom. Do you remember Blossom? No. I can't remember. I'm sure we must have spoken about it somewhere before. And it sent me down a rabbit hole of late 80s, early 90s pop culture before we started recording. It actually put me in a pretty good mood, to be honest with you, looking back in the days of Blossom. For those of you that remember Blossom, her best friend was a girl called Six, and I was a big fan of hers. I was also a big fan of Jenny from the California Dreams, if you remember the California... No?
Sort of. The thing is, when you said shrimps, and it's in America, I thought of like Forrest Gump and the shrimp.
Mm.
The guy who does this, he basically, the shrimp business, wasn't it? And yeah. So, that's shrimp. That's anything I think of. Shrimp, America, Limited.
We can talk about other American things. You like American things now, is the vibe I'm getting.
So I don't watch a lot of American TV, to be fair. I might watch a bit of sport, but obviously not WWE. Although I did see Alexa Bliss on my Instagram, which interesting. It doesn't look right. They're doing the wall, aren't they? Wall of fans.
Yes.
It just looks like Celebrity Squares or something, or Blankly Blank, doesn't it? It's just, I don't like it.
Yeah, they can't get fans in stadiums, so they're doing the screens where they're dotted around the ring and you're sort of watching it remotely. However, if you are watching remotely and your face is on one of those screens, if you go to the toilet at any point, they kick you off and they get someone else in. They're like, no, you must be there for the duration, otherwise your access is gone. They're quite particular about these things.
It's weird, don't it? It just looks like so futuristic. It's like Hunger Games to me.
Yeah,
like a futuristic. Yeah, I know it's still got fans present and stuff like that, but it just feels. Yeah, I don't like it. Even like Saturday Night Takeaway. Again, like you need interaction from people, don't you?
You need real live people. It doesn't work.
Exactly.
Like remote teaching, it just does not work. It's not the same. But before we move on from that I've got sort of sidetracked almost immediately. I will just mention, when you've referenced Alexa Bliss there, she beat Randy Orton the other day. It's all very confusing, Stu. I won't talk about it because it's quite embarrassing, to be honest with you. But I thought to myself, how did Randy Orton, this legend, accept losing to Alexa Bliss? And all I'll say is, look at the way she pinned him. You will understand. Because I am very jealous of Randy Orton right now.
Anyway, let's have a look.
Moving swiftly on, what are we talking about this week? Football. The draw with Charlton last week. We're going to look at the League One relegation battle, and we're going to talk more in depth about the London Broncos situation with a meeting coming up next week. We'll preview the Northampton game as well. But Stu, we're going to start with injuries because we have injury news this week. Callum Riley, Darnell Johnson, essentially Callum Riley definitely out for the season with a fractured ankle. Darnell Johnson's got a ligament injury. He's out for 6 weeks. That's essentially the season gone for him as well. Paul Cannon-Bailly and Dan Shoker are going to be back involved, but Riley and Johnson are big losses for the running, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. That Wigan game seems to have cost us. I know we got a point, didn't we, late on, but both picked up both those injuries, didn't we, in that game? And I don't know, maybe that's the severity of how important those games were, that we did put ourselves, tackles in and stuff. And we can't moan about tackles because it's something we've moaned sometimes, haven't we, in terms of not being in that injury room area. But it's experience with Callum Riley. It's experience that would help because obviously, we have a young squad. So that experience, and Donald Johnson was playing really well alongside Will Nightingale. So, big losses. And it always sounds worse, doesn't it, when you say out for the season? It's because the season's only like 6 weeks left or something.
Yeah.
So, that's the way that is. But we didn't really need injuries. We needed as much as we can. Centre halves do concern me because we now only really have Will Nightingale and Ben Hennigan. We probably can move others in, but down to the bare, not down to the bare bones, but losing key players, unfortunately.
Was it an ABBA song that went I Win Again. Who sung that song where they go, I win again, that song?
That's Bee Gees, and I can't believe
Bee
I just said
Gees.
that. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Oh, I don't know because I'm 26. But I always think of that song when I hear Ben Hennigan. I just hear Ben Hennigan. That's what I think of.
Well, maybe you can put it into the club then, because I don't know if you've seen, but the club are asking for songs for players.
Yeah,
Have you not seen that?
I haven't. I'm not sure that my suggestion there should be anything that anyone actually sings inside a football stadium, to be honest with you. It would be worse than, and we said this before, the whole city, you're getting mauled by the Tigers song.
Well, do you know what is interesting? I don't know if you've seen a video on the official site of Asal, Ayoub Asal, done to the magic hat, and it sounds too nice, doesn't it? It's like, I remember it for Jason Yule, for Michael Hughes. And you know what? It did make me chuckle. It did make me chuckle because you had I don't know, 6 or 7 of them, and then they sort of parted like I don't know, what's the Red Sea? I don't know. I'm talking rubbish. Yeah. And then he come out, done his little dribble. I thought it was quite cool actually. I quite liked it. But interesting, they're trying to get songs for players. But hey, do you know what? Kids fans
over the years of player songs. We're very mainly club songs, but I'm not sure if that's a general rule across the board, perhaps. But hey.
Yeah, but hey, look, it's going to be mad, isn't it? We're going to go back next season, hopefully. And we have to remember songs, aren't we? We have to give out team sheets. We're going to give out sort of sheets of paper to. Do you remember when Chelsea did that? Chelsea did it for one of their ladies' games. They brought out a little brochure of Chelsea songs. Maybe we have to do that for women's games.
Chelsea are ridiculous. They are a ridiculous club, ridiculous entity. Really are. I've got no time for them whatsoever. I may have mentioned this before. We used to sing. I put this on Twitter a few weeks back. Who's that coming onto the pitch? Is it Brett Johnson?
Yes, we did.
Brett Johnson. With all due respect, there is not a football team in the country that is quivering at the thought that, oh my Lord, Brett Johnson's coming on. This game changes from here on in. With all due respect to Brett Johnson, he was a fine centre half,
but not a
game changer. I'm not going to talk about finishes this week.
But you know what? The best song we had, and I wish we could get it something back in, was the James Stewart. Everyone loves a nutter in the middle. Do you know what I mean? Like, it went with him because he was a nutter.
Well, yes.
But it'd be great if we could get that for somebody. I don't know who we could. Who's a nutter at the moment we've got in there? We haven't really got a nutter, have we? That's the problem. You couldn't sing it for Jack Rideau. No, not it fits, but we haven't really got. The only one nutter we've got is Alex Woodjones. Yeah, he's not anywhere near a Jamie Stewart.
I don't think anyone is, to be fair. Charlton then, 2-2 draw. Yes. Good point. We'd have all taken a point beforehand. Was there disappointment at the end of it that we did not pick up all 3?
Yeah, do you know what? It's a really weird one. I openly said on our WhatsApp group I couldn't see us getting anything. Once Charlton went 2-1 up, I thought that was it. I really did. I couldn't see. We weren't playing great. Charlton, they could score, but they weren't to really. But whatever Robbo said at half time, we come out and probably put a 45-minute performance in the second half that, if I'm being honest with you, yeah, I'm disappointed we didn't get. We hit the post late on with Joe Pigott, then we had the free kick. We just didn't have that cutting edge. So yeah, I was a little bit disappointed. You can look at coming behind from twice in a game that, you've probably gained a point, but I thought we equalised, I think 65 minutes, and that was a terrible equaliser for them. But we just couldn't capitalise, which was a shame.
We'll go on to talk about the goals in a little while, but before we get into the minutiae of the game, it's a good word, isn't it?
I don't know what it means, but yeah, sounds good.
Got that, the small details, the fine details. I'm quite glad I got that one in. Just going to have a Barry Horowitz moment and pat myself on the back there. Changes to the team. Ayoub Asal, as you've mentioned, Jacko, Oksanen brought back in. No Wally Palmer. So it looked like a 4-2-3-1 again, but with a more natural forward 4 as opposed to Pigott playing just off Palmer. Did that work for us?
Yeah, Longman seemed to be a bit more in touch with Pigott this time as well. I just don't see a point. I know Longman likes to play out wide, but I think he's better further infield. And I thought he played really well, actually. Yeah, no, Palmer, I was surprised that we played Palmer the whole game. The previous one, which I can't remember, it was against now. Wigan. I can't remember now. It's coming so thick and fast.
Yeah,
but I was surprised he went from playing like 15 minutes here and stuff and then playing the whole one. So I was surprised he didn't come on, to be fair. I think Asal was a really good one because he's an unknown quantity. Really like him. We've got to be careful. And Oksana obviously didn't go international duty, wanted to play for us, which is really good. I thought he had a really good game and gives Robbo a bit of a problem now because obviously Karen Riley's obviously now injured, but that sort of midfield two is sort of between Dobson and Woodyard, so it gives him another problem.
What nationality is Jaakko Oksanen?
I was just trying to think that. He's Scandinavian. He's a Scandinavian one, isn't he? So is he Icelandic?
There's a reason I'm saying it.
I can't remember who he plays for now.
He plays for Wimbledon. Come on, Stu.
I'm trying to think now. Danish?
No.
It's that Scandinavian one, isn't it? Sweden, I don't know, Finland.
There you go.
Yeah,
he's Finnish. He's a Finisher. He's a Finn.
Yes, but he's done that a couple of times now, hasn't he? Where so obviously doesn't really want to play for Finland, really. That's probably more the case.
I'd love to live in Finland. It's pretty cold. I'd be more than happy there. But anyway, we digress once again. The goals. Let's start with their goals. The goals we conceded. Liam Miller on the left-hand side, getting the assist on both occasions, getting a little bit of room. Is that a flaw in the system where you have that gap between fullback and then you're forward on that side?
Yeah, I think Robbo said in the post-match, didn't he, that when you play different systems, sometimes you have to sacrifice. Sometimes it leaves you open. It leaves you open for certain things, and we did. They obviously worked that O'Neill was probably the side to go. We didn't get over to cover enough, and then we left him 1-on-1 with Miller. I think it's on loan from Liverpool, I think.
Right.
Which is ridiculous when you think about, we can go in about loans and stuff. But, 1-on-1, O'Neill had a nightmare with it. And I think, to be fair, Miller looked really good. And then, sort of gets us start. The goal's not great because I think we just, he gets goal side and it's an easy touch in. But the problem with the goal is that wide left, we just couldn't stop Miller getting the cross in or getting 1-on-1 with O'Neill.
There were similarities with their second goal, with the goal we conceded to Wigan for me. We seem to have a lot of balls, well, a lot of bodies back in the box, but probably not enough balls actually in terms of getting challenges in, getting close to people, blocking shots. The first goal, similarly, I thought cross comes into the near post. We've got bodies in there. But again, it's only one player that actually looks like he wants to actually win that ball.
Yeah, exactly. He gets goal side on that side of it. The second goal, it was interesting. On our Sunday Night Live, we had with Ryan Gale and Nick Zanev as guests on there. And I raised a question because in Robbo's post-match, he said he wanted the players to come in and explain to him what they could have done differently, which I like that approach. And Will, I mentioned that and said, and Will got him, and he got it ready for Monday morning. And to be fair play to Will, he openly said that this is what I could have done differently. And for that second goal, he said he felt that he felt it happened so quick that he couldn't change his man. And what he did, he went to the goal line when actually he could have probably dropped out and marked. So if you look at it, they will go to a goal line and he's free for a tap in. So, yeah, do you know what? I like that. But the thing is, I can live with goals if they're like 25-yarders or great moves, but we're not conceding goals that are... Do you know what I mean? We're conceding goals where you can look and go, do you know what? Look, we've made a few errors there, more than enough to... And we've got to stop doing it. We can't keep going behind all the time.
Last week I mentioned that and said that it seems that we have to work a lot harder for our goals and opposition have to work to score against us. That said, the second equaliser was gift wrapped from Charlton to Ryan Longman. And I know the discussion and the debates about this and the positives about our pressing and pressing high at the pitch to force the mistake. But the centre-half that plays the really short back pass, he's got so much time, hasn't he, to be surely more alert to the fact we've got three players, Longman specifically, running towards him. Just lump it. What is it with players that are they overcoached? Are they told too much to pass? Because if that was me, if that was us, if we were the team that had done that, we would have been absolutely screaming, why did you not just put your foot through it, clear your lines, keep it basic, keep it simple when you have to?
Yeah, well, since they changed the rule where you don't have to pass the goal kick out of the area, we've seen that quite a bit now, haven't we? And Man City do it quite a lot. A lot of teams do it. And I remember watching
Man
some of
United
the
did it the other day.
Yeah, did they make an error? It was the Leicester one, wasn't it? They made the error from. Yeah, I was just going to say, I did see one on TV. I couldn't remember what it is. They're terrible goals to give away. But what they try and do, Man City do it very well, but they're top of the Premier League for a reason. But they sort of suck teams in, so they deliberately play that sort of two centre halves dropping in, and then sometimes the goalkeeper can go long, and then because the idea is to beat the press. So if you can beat the press, then you basically have got 2-on-2. But that's for good teams. This is League One. Do you know what? I think what we have to look at is the press forces the error. However, it's a really under-hit back pass. There's no doubt about that. But they don't want to go long, do they? That's the problem. If you look at it, we had Dobson, Longman, Piggott in there pressing. But it was like, in a way, he had the ball and he's going, well, I can't go long because that's not allowed. Yeah. And then he just does that. The good thing is, if you look at it a different way, I've looked at it a couple of times, Longman's on his toes in terms of he's literally steaming towards the goalkeeper. So there's quite I think Longman was quite good in terms of he was going to press the goalkeeper. But if you give that goal away, if we gave that away, you just, you don't want to gift wrap them. But isn't it nice that we got a cheap goal? Because I don't cause getting many of this.
No, absolutely. Yeah, as we're saying. Thinking about it, we're talking about, as we said, we've both said it there, their centre-half does not want to just kick it long because he's not been trained that way. He's not been told to do that. However, him passing the ball back to his goalkeeper, what's he expecting his goalkeeper to do with that pass? If not, the goalkeeper lump it forward. It just seems almost circular logic almost in what they're trying to do there. But hey, that's their problem to deal with, not ours. So
one thing I did notice in that second half was that we pressed so hard. In the end, if you look at the first half, Charlton were able to play into midfield, really able to play the feet the whole time of it. If you look in the second half, Charlton had to go long a lot of times, which meant we got the ball more and we started playing. So the press helped make the mistake. But actually, we boxed them in second half, and Charlton were forced to go long, and their team is set up to go long. So it was good to see. That's why I was really pleased. I think we finally, and I was saying on Sunday Night Live, could you imagine that press, real high press, full house in Plough Lane? Do you know what I mean? If you win the ball back in their half and stuff like that, I quite like what I'm seeing. But yeah, it started to come together.
When you press like that, your back four, are we pressing as a team? Do they drop up? What do? Do they come up to the halfway line? Is that the point?
Yeah, she squeezes. That's the problem with iFollow is you can't see.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? And I don't know whether we had that. But if you think about it, I don't think it was just the three that pressed. I also think the channels were. So you basically squeeze. The problem you've got, and I think if they do get out, so if they manage to pass through the lines, and they then. Because then if they get through to midfield, sometimes you can be 2-on-2, 3-on-3. So if you're going to press, you've got to press. Well, you've got to press as one. Do you know what I mean? It's the first time I saw it working. I really like it. If you can get the ball back in dangerous positions like that, then you're laughing. So, and let's be fair, we've seen teams do it to us. How many times do we see teams press us and then force us to go long, and we had no one to head it? Mm. So
yeah,
we've seen it.
We always fell into that trap.
So we've seen it against us. It's actually nice to see us doing it to other teams.
Maybe I'll ask more about that actually when we come on to the Northampton game. But for the time being, yes, a good point. Yes, we were pleased with the performance, good character shown. We don't score first, which is a problem we need to sort out very, very quickly. I can't recall the last time we scored the first goal in a game. Probably was Wigan away when we won 3-2.
Gingham was a late one, wasn't it?
Yeah,
but you're right.
A first half goal. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Wigan was the only time we did that. And that was obviously the first game under Robbo.
Yeah, which leaves us with just 2 wins in 21 games and still without a win in the last 7. We are second bottom of the league, 3 points from safety, but we do have 2 games in hand. I've not done the maths on this. Ipswich at home and Rochdale at home are our, in inverted commas, games in hand. However, because there's a bit of a gap in the fixture list this weekend with a few teams not playing, I'm wondering if we catch up a game on a number of them this week and it throws that system out of whack a little bit. Internationals mean a lot of postponements.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. And we got Ipswich. My worry is we've got Ipswich home and away within, I think, a couple of weeks. And they've just got Paul Cook, who's coming in. That
our
worries
record
me.
against him is great.
Yeah.
I'm just going to double check the fixture list, actually, because Ipswich, for some reason in my head, I was like, we've already played Ipswich away. What are you talking about? But obviously not. So I'm just going to double check the timings of those. We're looking at the bottom 6. I ruled Bristol Rovers out of it a couple of weeks ago. They cannot pick up point. They just keep losing games and dropping points. And they're right back in the mix. And I'm surprised, really surprised, because the quality in their squad, they just can't seem to get it together. So they're back in the mix. And Rochdale, I still maintain, will be one of the 4 that goes down. But then Swindon pick up 2 wins on the bounce. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, you can't judge this at all. Maybe we're not in the worst position because if we time it right and get our little good run of wins together at the right time, we'll be able to climb above them all. But at the moment, it's a little bit frustrating to see the form of the Swindons and the Burtons and the Northamptons.
Yeah, so Northampton, they had a bit of a bounce, didn't they, when they got rid of Keith Curl. And they had a bit of, then they sort of started going off that, and then they beat Oxford at home. And Oxford must have been a much frustrating team. They've got a very good team on paper, but just they shouldn't release it to Northampton. Swindon, yeah, a couple of games back to back, winning at Bristol Rovers. And this is the weird thing, isn't it? Because Joe Barton hasn't really had that bounce, has he? And it made me laugh. I was reading somebody saying that Joe Barton's a really good manager. And I was sitting there thinking, well, he had money at Fleetwood, and he's only got to Bristol Rovers for money. Because so, could he do it without a team of money? But he isn't really doing much with Bristol Rovers. The interesting thing with Swindon, back-to-back wins, which is what we would love to do, but they haven't moved that away. They haven't moved away much. So, that's the thing.
Because last week I'd written them off. I thought they'd gone because they were that far sort of down towards the bottom. And that's why, as you say, 2 wins on the bounce, but 3 points outside the relegation zone and still a long way from safety.
And still will come to our place as well. So that's the thing. So we have Rochdale, we have Swindon, we have Northampton. So it's in our hands to not let them get too far away. So, Northampton, I think Northampton is a not lose. I don't think it's a critical must win, but it's definitely not, if they lose, then we're 6 points away from them. And you don't want to be that far away from any point. But it's just saying, this is going to go down to the last game of the season.
Yeah.
So it's not, what I would say, it's not all doom and gloom if we don't win. We've got to not lose on that, but it doesn't help Northampton coming after a 1-0 win against Oxford. That we could have done without that.
Let's just talk about Northampton now. I think we'll win on Saturday. I'm pretty confident of that, just because we're due a victory and it's about our time and it's a winnable game. Northampton, as we said, then 20th. They've won 3 of their last 6, and they had that good win, as you mentioned, against Oxford on Tuesday, 1-0. John Brady is the man who took over from Keith Curl in his first managerial job as a League One first-team manager, similar to Mark Robinson. So funny how that goes. They've got quality in their team. Every team seems to have about a good 3 or 4 players. You think, oh yeah, we could do with them. So, Sam Hoskins scored the winner in the week. Good player.
Yeah.
And Rose, Kieran Bolger. Strong squad.
Yeah. And I think under Keith Curl, they played direct football. Not that I'm going to moan about direct. Not that I'm going to now moan about direct football because we're playing pretty football. But yeah, we the 2 centre halves, Hennigan and Nightingale, are able to deal with that. But I'm not overly confident we're going to win on Saturday. I don't think we'll lose, but we've got to get away.
We're going for a draw then.
Yeah, we're going for a draw, but we've got to get away from seeing these first goals. Got to get away from that because we're not scoring. I know we scored 2 against Charlton, but and one of those was a mistake. But we're not scoring bucket loads of goals. So, for us to concede the first goal, we're not always going to be able to get 2. So we're going to pick up draws here and there. So we've got to cut out those mistakes. It's good that Robbo's had a full week of training with them. So that's good news. And then obviously we go to Northampton, and then we go into the Easter weekend after that. So it's not long. The season hasn't got long left.
No, I can't wait for it to be over. Really can't. Can't wait for many things to be over with. But definitely that season. Draws, though, Stu, you say that. Draws are our problem, aren't they? Not 4 of the last 5 we've drawn. It's lots of drop points. There's only 2 teams in the division that have drawn more games than us, and that's Shrewsbury and Sunderland, because Sunderland just, since they got relegated into this level, they just love drawing games. It's like their favourite thing to do. They're just like, take a draw. They've only lost 5 times this season, but they're not top of the league because they draw so many. But anyway, that's by the by. We need to, I'd rather, you look at those 4 draws in the last 5, so that's 4 points out of a possible 12. You'd rather have won 2 and lost 2.
Yeah, and it's funny that you were saying, because you look at Swindon. Swindon have only drawn 4 games, won 11, lost 22. So they either win or draw. Sorry, they either win or lose. They don't do draws. And sometimes you're right, because even though you're picking up points and stuff like that, we've got to pick up maximum points. And I don't think we're far away from maximum points. And one thing I've been saying recently is normally when you're in a relegation battle, you don't tend to you basically you pick up a point here and there, but the reason you're down there is because you're not very good. But with us, I feel like we're getting better by each game because of how we change the style. So I feel like we've got 11 games left, but I actually feel that we will get stronger into that last bit as the style works. So I'm reasonably confident as I can be of being elite one next year.
We're down on the map, but we're going to hulk up and get a second wind and come back. Still a long way to go. Right, elsewhere, should mention, talked about Sunderland drawing games. They travel to Bristol Rovers on the weekend. Wigan host Ipswich, and that is it because of internationals. So ours really is the big 6-pointer in the division on Saturday. So we shall see how we get on. And the Ipswich game, I mentioned, I did look it up, Stu, and then I got rid of it. But we have got Ipswich home before we travel to them. I thought it was the other way around for some reason as well. So I don't know where my head is with this fixture. It's like I want to pretend it's not actually happening for some reason. But it's very late in the day, isn't it? We go Ipswich away on the Saturday, then Rochdale at home on the Tuesday, before we then have Portsmouth at home on the next Saturday. What a week that will be. But that's all to come. That's in the future, post-lockdown, post-haircut. And that is how far away that still remains, because it feels like a lifetime at this moment in time. Anyway.
Yeah.
London Broncos.
Oh, yes.
Oh, congratulations to our youth team, by the way. So there's a meeting on the 31st of March at 7:30 p.m, which means I hope the youth game doesn't go to extra time, because the FA Youth Cup game with Spurs is on the same day and it's going to be streamed live on YouTube. And if it goes to extra time, we're in trouble, because it's already going to finish about 7:45 at the earliest, and the meeting starts at 7:30. So this SGM might need to be put back half an hour, and even then it might not be good enough because of extra time. So that's an awkward situation that has presented itself. But as it stands, the meeting is still going ahead, and this is to determine whether we enter into talks with London Broncos to finalise them sharing Plough Lane from what I assume is from next season, for their next season. I'm not sure exactly what their contract is at the moment. At the moment, they're playing in Ealing at a place called the Trail Finders Rugby and Cricket Club. Sounds like a made-up place, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what their contract is with them, but I assume that they have to sign it for the duration of their season, and they work in calendar years as opposed to across years. So, yeah,
I'm not too sure. Because their season started on the 19th. I've not even looked to see how they got on. But yeah, I reckon it's obviously if they've signed for the whole season, then they're going to be in trouble. So they might have done a short term lease. They obviously have an idea of. They've probably got a timeline in their head. If the vote goes ahead and they're successful, then they've probably got an idea when they're going to be in Plough Lane.
Now, yes, their season has started. They're playing in the Challenge Cup. Interesting, if you would like to watch London Broncos and see their stadium, they will be on the BBC iPlayer this Sunday. They are hosting York in the Challenge Cup, and at 2:30 p.m. kickoff. So if you want to watch some egg chasing of the League Northern variety, that is on iPlayer on Sunday at 2:30. But They are in the Championship. The documentation that's been sent out by the Dons Trust, and this is available on the website, thedonstrust.org. I think I referenced this line last week. I can't remember if I actually got to it. It's the line that says they are currently in the Championship, but are ambitiously seeking to return to the Super League, which suggests to me that they're unlikely to get it. You wouldn't say ambitiously. Like, I'm trying to let's pick an example. Norwich are not ambitiously seeking a return to the Premier League this season because that's standard for Norwich. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But isn't it, so they were up for promotion. I don't know how it works with Super League, but you're elected, aren't you?
Yeah.
Because they were one of, 4 clubs?
Yeah.
Which makes it's crazy that you can, you have to wait to be elected. It's like going back to 77 when we were elected into the Football League. So how is that done? If you're ambitiously, if you want to get promoted, it's very difficult if you have to be elected.
Yeah.
And if you look at their last, like I said before, the last 9 seasons, they played 4 in the Super League.
Yeah.
And we know that the top end of that money is based on them being in the Super League. Yet we can't, they can spend all the money they want, but it doesn't mean they're going to get elected. And I don't know how that works on favours. Bribes are done in rugby, of course, but how do they get into a better position? Because it seems to be that the Super League is basically a Northern Super League.
Yeah, they try to and spread the game, the sport, across as many areas as possible to try and increase participation and get more and more people involved in it. And that's why you see when the Super League first started, you had Paris Saint-Germain that were brought in especially for it. You've had Toronto, I think, recently, and obviously London with a big.
Barcelona did have one as well, did they? Is that right?
They've got Catalan Dragons, yeah. Which I think they're based in France, but the whole aim. London was the big one. I think London was the one they really wanted to take off, and it never quite happened. Even under Richard Branson, they got to the Challenge Cup final, didn't they, in the mid-90s? Just never really appealed. We're very much a rugby union sort of basically south of Watford, really, because once you hit to Watford, everything deteriorates rapidly before picking up again. But let's not get into Watford now. You've mentioned the money depends on what division they're in. Championship, we believe, would be at the lower end of the 200,000 to 500,000 range that we're being told. And Stu, already having this conversation, we are coming across my issue with this whole thing, which is, as you've picked up before, with this whole deal, there are known knowns. There are things we know. For example, roughly 10-year lease, 200 to 500,000 pounds. There are known unknowns, which are the things we know we don't know. So we know that we don't know how much say arguably that £500,000 is that just complete profit for us? Is that money that we have to use to be able to stage games for the London Broncos? Is this money that has to pay for extra staffing for when they play here? And those take us into the unknown unknowns, which is what else has to happen for this to be a thing? Do we benefit from sponsorship revenue? Probably not, because the sponsorships are probably already in place with the league and their main sponsor being Sky, and they've probably got all those wrapped up. Do we know hospitality? Like I say, hospitality staffing, is that incumbent on us? Do we take a amount of the revenue from that? Do we know that? Probably not. Who's in charge of liaising with police? Who's for match days, especially when you're playing the likes of St Helens and Wigan, who'll probably bring thousands upon thousands of fans? All these sorts of questions. We don't know anything like enough. What we're probably confident with is that we are told that, and this is the main, I think most people's concern is, we're told that they won't be playing in the stadium before we will, which is a good thing. We're told the pitch can easily handle both sports. Again, that's a known unknown. We know that the pitch is going to have extra usage. We don't know the effect it's going to have on the surface. Lots of things to contemplate, as well as not just the pitch, but also the sponsorship that gets spray painted onto these Super League pitches. Don't want any of that mucking up our pitch either. So yeah, lots of things to discuss. Where are you leaning on this? Are you in favour or against?
Do you know what? I keep changing my mind in terms of against and maybe having a slight edge to going with it. I think my biggest concern is that we seem to, from what I've seen on social media, and trust me, social media isn't a definite idea of how everyone's thinking, but I keep hearing that the money's good. But is it good? Because it's a big range, as you just said. There's so many things we don't know, and maybe we would never know them because of, unfortunately, of deals. You can't know everything. But if we remember back at Sellers, when we, Ron Nose stitched us up big time when he took all the cut of the catering. We don't even have the catering. We don't even know who's doing our catering at the moment. There's so many things that we haven't had a real game at there. So we're sort of asking someone to share with us, but actually we don't know how it works. And if it's 200 grand, are we desperate for that? Because it feels like we're literally going with a bucket and going help, which is frustrating.
Well,
it feels like we're doing York City. Do you remember years ago when they did that?
Oh, I think there's a lot of clubs who did that back in the day. We couldn't move the clubs wrapped in buckets. Yeah.
And I think, and you're right, there's a lot of unknowns. And the 200 grand, could we save, if we need 200 grand, could we save that by maybe utilising the youth team more next year? We're looking at Robbo's going to have a younger squad. So are we desperate for this money? And the money isn't just my issue. The pitch is definitely an issue for me. And I think there's some little white lies going on about this as a summer sport, because if you look at it, it's not. And the Super League is even worse than the Championship. So the Championship runs between March and September. The Super League runs from February to September. And do they play pre-season? Are they allowed to play pre-season games on the pitch? Because if they do, the last time Broncos were in the Super League, they've done a pre-season beginning of January.
There are pre-season friendlies, yeah. I think we'd have to put the kibosh on December. Really, when they say it's a summer sport, I mean, you're avoiding the worst bits of winter, really. You're avoiding the November, December, January times when you get your frozen pitches and your really poor conditions. And it is, for the most part, played over the nicer weather, pretty much when because the clock's going back this weekend, aren't they? Or they do. Forward, sorry.
But you know what was interesting? So, One Was Had a Dream podcast had Anthony Quinn on, he's a groundsman. Interesting interview, but he was honest and said, if you saw the picture, the official site had the picture of Longman scoring. I think it was taken up from the third tier, and you could already see bare areas in front of the south stand. And he admitted that the sun doesn't get in there between September and March. Is that right? Not November and March, something like that. And it doesn't get enough sunlight. So are we thinking then that, so if you think about it logically, season finishes September, the damage has probably been done, yet we've got an issue then of sunlight coming into the stadium. Let's be fair, we've got a ground that's we've got a massive west stand, and then we've got massive flats, etc. around it. So are we going to have enough recovery time to get there? And I really want the ladies to be playing at Plough Lane, especially now when the Women's Super League have just got their own independent deal, which is a massive thing for that.
TV deal.
Yeah, they've never had independent games before. I think they were paid like $5,000 for games, the coverage, and it was cost of it. But this is a massive deal for the Women's League. Are we going to try and be a part of that? And it's that one club thing. I don't want us to set. I know it sounds horrible. I just don't want us to set out for money. And it just feels the money is. All I keep hearing is, it's a lot of money. Well, is it? Because I can't really justify it.
It is if that £500,000 is a lump sum we get and we say, right, stadium deficit, in you go, done, no strings attached. But I'm not sure that's the case. It's a known unknown. We just don't know. I'm totally undecided where I stand on this right now, but I think there's a lot more information we need about a deal before I think we can have a realistic vote on it. So hopefully on Wednesday.
Yeah, do you know what I was going to say? I think the vote if I'm being truthful, I think it gets passed.
Yeah, I do.
It doesn't mean because it gets passed, I'm just going to say, well, I'm going to vote yes. I do have some concerns. I think there's another Q&As coming out from the Dons Trust Board of questions that have been asked. I want to support. If it's a good deal for us, then I want it. I'm not going to say that we don't want the money, but after not having a season in that ground, to then, they're going to be on Sky Sports a bit, aren't they, and stuff like that. I just want it to be ours. I don't really want to share it.
That is all we've got time for this week. We'll have to end it there.
Yeah.
Updates from the game with Northampton on Twitter at 9YRS Podcast. If you haven't already, check out the extra podcast Stu's put out. Sunday Night Live from last week, a special mental health podcast featuring Jane Lonsdale, Hannah Kitcher, Joe Palmer, Mikey T, Matt Haylock went out. It's available on all the usual channels as well. Subscribe to us on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, I should say, to make sure you get that. And Stu got bits of writing here, there, and everywhere at the minute. A few articles flying around. So check it all out on our Twitter feed at 9YRS Podcast, and you'll find all the links to everything there. I think that's anything you want to add to that?
No. As I say, the mental health podcast. I was actually really surprised how good it was. It's not me blowing my own trumpet, but I wanted it to be effective, and it was a lot better than what I thought it was going to be. And it's a really good one in two parts, because I didn't want to do an hour and 40 of that. It's a bit much in one go, so I put it in two parts deliberately because of that. But yeah, and it's also nice to have Will Nightingale and Nick Zanev on the same night over. And what a nice guy! What a nice guy Nick Zanev is. Not really spoke to him much at all. What a lovely guy. Warmed to him really quickly. And good luck for him for the rest of the season.
What a nice way to finish. Thank you very much for joining me this week, Stu.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone out there listening. Alexa Bliss, bag first, milk last, 2 + 2 = 4. We will speak to you again next Friday.